Welcome, Luke Gilkerson, back to the Practical Family Podcast. We're happy to have you back.
Thank you so much for having me back. This is great.
Yeah, this is our second time talking together because there is just so much that you and your wife, Trisha, offer over at the Intoxicated on Life blog. Today, we're talking about your science curriculum. This is exciting because I'm looking at these two options, at least you have astronomy and biology going on. What made you want to create that option for families?
Sure. Well, the astronomy was the first course that we brought online. That actually is an outcropping of the teaching I would do at our local homeschool co-op. Ever since I was a little kid, I've loved astronomy. I love teaching astronomy. I love learning about astronomy. I love reading about astronomy. And we have kind of a classical education co-op in our area. And I teach on a rotating basis. I'll teach different courses. One of the courses I teach every 3 years or so is an astronomy course. I typically do it for junior and senior high. And the more I developed for this course, the more people were saying, this is the kind of thing that a lot of people want to do, but not a lot of parents know a lot about astronomy. And then it was my wife who was initially who said, what, we ought to create an online course. I'm like, we don't want to do that. I mean, I don't know how to make an online course. I don't even know what that's all about. But we got some great coaching in that area to know how to learn how to create a really good, robust course. And we started it. This is, I think, going to be our fifth year doing it. And we are so excited about where this has gone. We've now had the opportunity to teach hundreds of students all over the world the discipline of just being able to go outside, look at the sky, and recognize what they see. And so that's what that initial course was. It's really more of a classical astronomy, naked eye astronomy, no telescope needed. Just go out and be able to read the sky like a map, be able to understand and identify not just the names of some of the brightest stars and recognizing constellations, but then recognizing why things are moving in the sky the way they are and what explains those motions and how can we predict what's coming next and all that kind of stuff. That's this kind of stuff that really fascinated me about astronomy, and I want to be able to, to impart that to other students. In addition, the thing that I really love about astronomy is that it is, because it's in a sense, it's the oldest science. It is connected to the past in some really powerful ways. With astronomy, you can get into the study of mythology. You can get into the study of history. You can get into the study of the history of science. You can get into the study of literature, because astronomy, being as old as it is, has touched all these different disciplines in the past in some way. And so every lesson, it's constantly moving into whether it be Bible stories or historical stories or mythologies or whatever, and not just from areas of the world we might be familiar with, but from all over the globe. And so that's something that really fascinated me about astronomy, is being able to give people not just a taste of science, a taste of astronomy, but to be able to have this interdisciplinary kind of course. And I think that's what a lot of the students have really appreciated about it.
Wow.
So that was astronomy. Biology, that's my wife. She majored in biology in college, and she loves the study of biology. And she wanted an outlet to teach on that subject. She also taught biology at our homeschool co-op, and the online course is really an outgrowth of that course. And for the same reason that I love astronomy, she also loves biology. She's been able to use that study of biology in order to look at the beauty of God's created world and to understand how it is that we see the glory of God seen in living things all around us. So that's been something that we've been really excited about in all these science courses, is be able to kind of connect the dots for students as they study these topics.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I had no idea. I had no idea that you've linked astronomy to so many other academic disciplines. I mean, it makes sense, right? We learn about these things in history, and
Sure.
And especially if you do, families listening, if you do the Classical Conversations curriculum or any classical curriculum, really, where you're studying the oldest works and the original, writings of folks, you see all of those things interconnected and how it all connects back to God. And I know that you do that in your courses as well, that you show and you use scripture and all of that. That is just a beautiful picture for an opportunity for families to learn. And the fact that you and Trisha are coming together and using both of your interests and your areas of study, and you went for it. You figured out how to put this course online, and you're not limiting it just to your own co-op. We all thank you for that, because it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to figure out new ways to communicate online. But honestly, this is the way education is going, isn't it? We were just talking about this. Talk to the families a little bit about the fears that you've had from other homeschool families that tend to kind of drop out of homeschool.
Well, and that's just something we've noticed. I mean, we understand that homeschooling is one of many educational options, and every parent has to use wisdom to figure out exactly what is best for them and for their kids. That's true. But we saw a lot of families that maybe wanted to continue homeschooling, but felt like they were kind of in over their head academically the older their students got. And so one of the burdens we have is helping students to be connected to quality education from qualified experts in understanding whatever the subject is, whether it's, for instance, biology, or there's astronomy or whatever. We want to be able to connect students to that teaching, but at the same time, we wanted to give students the freedom to still do it in the home environment that so many parents love about homeschooling. And that's the thing. Homeschooling, really what homeschooling is, it's home-based education. It doesn't necessarily mean that the parent has to be the expert at every subject. We have a high school student at home now who he's taking dual enrollment classes through the local college. He takes some stuff through our local homeschool co-op. We teach him subjects here at home. He takes a smattering of different things. But the point is that we are the ones in control of what that education looks like. And it happens in the context of our home, where we can not just keep an eye on whatever it is he's studying, but allow him the freedom and the flexibility to explore different ways of being educated, whatever those things are. And the same thing's true with anybody listening to this podcast right now, is that it doesn't have to be where the parent is the expert. They just have to be the ones who are the resource provider. They're the ones who coalesce and bring together those modes of education, whatever that may be, whether it's video courses that their kids are taking, or whether it's or even if it's sending your son or daughter to do an apprenticeship somewhere where they learn hands-on learning, or where they go to a trade school, or whether they get a part-time job doing this, that, or the other thing. There's so many ways that education can happen that doesn't have to be where the parent's the talking head and the student's sitting there and listening, to everything that the parent is saying. The parent doesn't have to be the expert in everything. And so that's what we want to offer families with these courses. We want to give them an opportunity to learn at home, but still get a quality education.
Amen. Amen. You said that so well, Luke, and I hope that unburdens a lot of families listening to this right now, because that's one of the hugest homeschool lies, is that and the fear of even just jumping in is that I can't do it. I would never be able to homeschool my kids. And whether some parents mean that from a behavioral perspective, or, it's hard to get my kids to listen to me, I'll just, send the school and then we'll come back. Okay. And then we'll, whatever you think that's supposed to look like, or I'm not smart enough to homeschool. And
right.
It's not about that. And I thank you so much for clarifying that. We're going to pull out a few quotes there from you and share that all over our community, because that is where a lot of parents get stuck. And I see it, and I feel it myself too. Even having been a former educator, I still look at some of what my daughter, has to do, and my mind just whirls with all the things that she could learn, or that, I'm not bringing her enough, I'm not finding the right things. But being able to log on and have this access to a beautiful and quality course. I mean, you guys have to go to intoxicatedonlife.com, look at their courses, just kind of look at how they're laid out, and just choose to invest in that, because it's such an important tool to use, especially in the sciences. And I know that the issues of like creation evolution that come up a lot, especially in Christian families. Can you explain how much you talk about that in your courses, or maybe maybe you don't? I mean, where do you kind of fall in this area?
Sure. Yeah. Where we probably talk about it the most would be in our new biology course that we're launching, that we've just launched, and actually we're still in the process of creating. The lessons are being dripped out once a week right now. We really deal squarely with evolution more in that course because it pertains more to that subject of biology than it does astronomy. Primarily, what we talk about there is we really want students to become critical thinkers when it comes to the subject. So what we try to do is state what are some of the theological questions that a Christian who's wrestling through this question of evolution, what are some of the theological questions they have to ask themselves? What are some of the biblical interpretive issues that they have to run across in order to wrestle through this? And while we certainly have our opinions about the matter, and we, squarely state that we don't think neither the science or the Bible points, conclusively to evolution, we do want rather than just serve that solution or serve that idea to them on a silver platter and say, here's your answers to all your questions. We really want the student to really think through those questions themselves. We want them to understand how is it that, for instance, when let's say you're talking about macroevolution, and one of the ideas behind macroevolution is that you are that one species is going to be transformed into an entirely different species over a period of time. That over a period of time, given enough helpful mutations, a new species is going to become a entirely different species. So the first question the first scientific question you have to ask yourself is, do we know any good examples of helpful mutations that are out there? And lo and behold, there's not a whole lot of examples. We've not found a whole lot of helpful mutations in the world. And yet most of macroevolution depends on a belief that there's been literally thousands or millions of helpful mutations that have come along in just the right way in order to go from one species to another species. So that's a scientific question you have to wrestle with. A theological question you have to wrestle with is, in order for that to happen, the entire system has to be based on a survival of the fittest. One species or one predator going after prey, one species going after another species, and the ones that are victorious are the ones that pass on their genes to the next generation. So a theological question you have to ask yourself is, okay, does that mean that death was in the world before sin was? Well, according to the Bible, that may not be an option open or available to us. Now, perhaps someone wants to come up with an answer to that, and that's fine. But what we want to try to do in this course is present the questions that have to be answered so that students are equipped to deal with those questions as they come up. As far as it touches in the subject of astronomy, we don't really talk about evolution per se in astronomy or age of the earth kind of stuff. We don't really get into that because that's more of a cosmology type question. What we're doing in the astronomy course is primarily we're doing classical astronomy, the kind of astronomy that they were doing 1,000 and 2,000 and 3,000 years ago in order to understand, well, kind of like what Genesis 1 says. Why did God create the stars in the sky? Not just to give us light, but also to help us to learn how to tell time, to make calendars, to navigate the earth. These are things that ancient cultures, even up into the early modern era, were still using the sky for. And we want to help them to understand the disciplines that of how do I observe the sky above, and how do I use the stars above in order to do some of those things, in order to understand the seasons and time and calendar making and navigation and all these different disciplines that so it's more of a classical astronomy approach. It's not so much focused on cosmology, age of the universe kind of ideas.
That's good to know. That really is helpful in separating those different disciplines and the purpose and reason why we study it in a certain
Right.
way. I know that this year we're in cycle 2, we're focusing on astronomy in classical
Yes.
conversations, but it's certainly a discipline that carries over no matter how you structure your homeschool day. Space is just such a cool thing to so many young kids, especially, and to be able to dive in from a biblical perspective is just a treat. I love that. I love that you have created that option and continue to create courses too. So these courses and help parents to understand, how are you offering them? When are they available?
Sure.
Because you're timing it in a specific way. And help them understand that.
Yeah, we're typically enrolling new students starting in the spring and up through summer, through usually the end of August is when we're taking new students. Now, originally we started it that way because with our upper level astronomy course, which is an outdoor observation course, there's specific time that students have to start those classes. You can't watch September's lessons in April and expect to see what I'm talking about in April, because what I'm talking about in September is the sky in September. And what I'm talking about October is the sky in October. So the lessons track with what's going on in the sky rather than just kind of doing the lessons whenever you feel like it. So we try to show students through the cycle of a year how the sky changes and what they can observe when they're outside.
But one thing that we learned about in the process of doing it this way, where we had a season for recruiting new students, bringing on new students, and then a season for teaching those students, is that we really liked that rotation because it enabled us to be better teachers. We would much rather focus a certain season on bringing in new students and talking about the courses and talking about why the courses are valuable to a family, and then having a whole school year to really focus, not on bringing in new people, not on trying to sell people on something, but just trying to serve the students we have and teach them well. Yeah. That was really, really important to us. And so for us, that's the primary reason we do it, because we want to make sure that the students we have, come September, when those students are starting their courses, that we're not messing around with continuing to try to bring in new people. We want to teach the students we have and teach them well.
That's great. That's great, because it takes a lot. It takes a lot for that type of focus for any teacher. If you were going to sit in a classroom, the teacher prepares themselves for that time and that period, and then they need to rest. And people don't realize that, you can put a course up there online, but it still takes a lot to, as you say, sell it or market it. We have to do so much with social media and so much with our email lists and stuff. And it's great that you're setting up that model for your own family, because you guys homeschool your own children. And it's like you've got a tribe going on there by just on your own. And then to be able to do this with families is just a beautiful model. I love that. So when this podcast episode comes out, we're looking at more toward the spring. So families, you need to gear up to get these courses in your spring, preferably springtime. Get them early. Don't wait all the way till summer. But I know a lot of you like to plan ahead and everything. So make sure that you're going to intoxicatedonlife.com and at least pre-registering. How can they get there and
they can, there's, when you go to, let me give you a couple web addresses to go to check out these courses.
Okay.
Certainly Intoxicated on Life that's our main blog, that's our main hub, and you'll find links to go to different courses. The courses themselves are housed at a website called Journey Homeschool Academy. That's the umbrella organization that we've started in order to house all these courses. But if you want the specific courses to look at, first of all, look at experienceastronomy.com. That will talk to you all about both the upper level courses that we have for astronomy and the elementary level astronomy that we have. We developed an elementary level science because it was in high demand after they saw the upper level one. A lot of people wanted an elementary course. So we threw in an elementary course. So you can learn about both of those there. And the best way to stay in touch with us when you go there is just click the little preview button on the top where you can preview the courses. You'll be asked to enter your email address. At that point, you'll be on the email list where then we can talk to you about all the specials, whether it's the early bird sale that we do in the spring, which is always the deepest discount that we give to parents, is that early bird sale in the spring. And of course, then any other specials we run during the summertime leading up to the close of registration in August. So experienceastronomy.com, click on preview. Same thing with the other course. If you're interested in biology, it's experiencebiology.com. And you can go there, click the preview button, look at the videos, see if you like the videos, see if they'd be a good fit for your family. And again, you'll be on the email list there where we can email you periodically to let you know about what's coming up as far as those things. So it's kind of best of all worlds. You can both preview the material, see if it's a good fit, and you'll get on the email list so that way you know what's coming up and you won't miss out on the big sales.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Luke Gilkerson, partnering with your wife, Trisha, to bring us all of these great homeschool resources. Check out their blog. Go to intoxicatedonlife.com, where all of this is connected as well. But now that they've branched out to bring you quality homeschool courses, please, please, please take advantage of that. This is a family who works hard and is dedicated to homeschooling their own children and providing resources for all of us, the community of homeschoolers. Thank you so much for joining us, Luke. I appreciate your time. Any closing words for an encouragement for families?
I will say that, first of all, thank you for the work that you do on your podcast and on your website. We love following you on Facebook and on your blog and everything. So we love what you're doing, and especially in connecting all these different resources together. We need people like you who are kind of like the ligaments that are kind of holding the joint, holding things together so that families can come to one place and get resources from this group or that group or the other group. Hearing all this kind of stuff coalesce together, it's a great thing. So we really appreciate what you do. So I just wanted to encourage you with what you're doing right now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Luke. Thank you.